What's going on, guys? Welcome on back to the Second and Short podcast here on the Mosaic MC Network. We are talking today quarterback buys and sells. Jason does not know exactly who we're going to be talking about. I'm going to present him four names, and we're going to debate and go back and forth on whether or not you should be buying these quarterbacks or selling them based on the Dynasty rankings that we have here on Fantasy Pros that we're using today. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this. So, four quarterbacks here. Like I said, we're using them off of Fantasy Pros rankings. So we're going to kind of start with, and this buying and selling is relative to your league. Obviously, in Superflex leagues, there's going to be a little more value for these quarterbacks versus single quarterback. You might not want everything. The selling price and range is going to differ. So we're going to go all over the place. But I want to start at home with you. So at QB 16, let's talk about Daniel Jones and whether or not he is a buy or a sell for you in Dynasty right now.
He is a tremendous buy for me. Not only, as a homer, you like to start at home, so I like that. And I'm excluding my homerisms. He's a huge buy because he is a mobile quarterback. He gets you rushing yards as well as, standard QB yardage. Plus the upgrades of the offense, adding Hyatt from Tennessee, getting Dale Waller coming in as his tight end. This offense is set to take a step forward, and I think it gives Jones all the weapons to succeed. So he is a definite buy, in my opinion, at this time.
So one of the biggest concerns with Daniel Jones, obviously, is the consistency. From year 1 to 3 is vastly different than year 4 that we saw. And I think that he hit at the right time to get himself real life, money and everything. For me, he's a sell. This is where we're going to have the differing opinions. And I kind of wanted to have this where we kind of agree on some of these and don't. And he's a sell for me. And the reason why he's a sell for me is that within the span of 1 year, his value has jumped. After year 3, his range and rankings or like ADP was in like QB 20 to like 26. Like the back end, he's like your backup in single quarterback. In Superflex, he's maybe your third quarterback you go after type thing. And so in 1 year's time, he skyrocketed and moved all the way up to QB 16 to where he's borderline QB 1. Now he does have tremendous rushing upside. My sell is a value sell. It's not because I need to get out of this guy, as quick as possible. I don't want him on my team because, I don't think he's that good. There is that risk though, that this could just be a roller coaster, like we went down and we think this is going to be a great ride. And it's just a one and it's right back down. It's a one up and down. So that risk is there and it's real, but really it's the upside. The fact that people are going to be looking at it and going, well, okay, he gets a lot of rushing yards, a lot of rushing touchdowns. Maybe Barkley's, not going to play this year, whatever it is. And it looks like the Giants continue to, do well building. And if you look at the guys ahead of him, they're all those rookies that we see. Stroud, Young, Richardson are all ahead of him. Tua, I'm seeing Dak. Some guys that I do think should be ahead of him. Some guys that I'm not sure about. But if you can use him to sell and pair with like a first to get like a top 8 guy, I don't think this would happen, but I'm just saying like Daniel Jones, your first and your second for Trevor Lawrence in a Super Bowl. Just so that way you can go almost guarantee get a safer quarterback that is in the top 10. That's kind of what I would do. I'd be using him as a stepping stone to get somebody a little better.
Okay. I see your point. Yeah, I mean, the upside's there, and you may pay a little bit more for him this year. But I think with the weapons, he's just going to continue to climb. And before he gets priced out of your range, I think it's a good time to buy.
Now, we're talking about buying, so we have to have the lines on both and everything. Like, I'm not just selling him just to get rid of him. I'm using him as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And you're buying him. So what is the range we're talking about? Because QB 16, at least in a single quarterback, we're talking probably about a mid to late second round pick. And in a Superflex league, we're probably talking about like 111, 112. Is that something that you're comfortable getting rid of to lock him up as like your QB2 in Superflex?
Yeah, I would definitely give a late first for him to lock up in a Superflex league. I think his range is ceiling. I would not give up more than 110, but if I can get him in that 2 to 110 range, yeah, I'm definitely buying.
I mean, and when we're looking at how the rookie draft fell this year, especially based on like guys that we have at ADP and rankings, is that you're looking at those like second and third round running backs and like the second round receivers and maybe the second or third tight end drafted at that back of the first. So the value's there for a trade if you're okay with him being your number two and having a quarterback that I don't think he'll ever touch the top 10. That's just me personally, like on a consistent basis. I think he'll be just outside of that, which is okay. Like Ryan Tannehill was like that for several years. Then I think you're good to go. There's a little bit of risk though, because buying a quarterback for a first, especially that has only had one really good year, is the big risk. So let's move on to the second guy, and we're going to move just up a little bit. Let's talk about Kyler Murray, quarterback 10. He's obviously major injury. Cardinals are very bad. Now hold two picks that'll probably be in the top five this next year, their own and the Texans. But he's got a lot of money locked up into him. The Cardinals cannot just get rid of him. Even if he sits out this entire year, what are you doing with Kyler Murray?
Right now, I think I would buy Murray right now simply because he has a lot of question marks. He has all the talent there. The Cardinals are not playing for this year. They're playing for next year's draft. Um, that's why we've seen Hopkins released to free up some money to basically suddenly not give their offense weapons um, and not succeed. And I feel like that's the route. So I'm buying Murray because when he plays, he gives you a huge upside. Um, but with the injury and everything, a lot of people are selling him. I'm seeing him sold fairly cheap in a lot of leagues. I've seen him in my Superflex league. He wasn't drafted until the eighth round, which is Superflex Dynasty. Seeing somebody like that go in the eighth round, and I'm actually the one that drafted him in the eighth round. Um, I just couldn't let his value fall anything past that. I mean, he was my third quarterback taken, and people was getting on to me, why am I taking three quarterbacks so early? Because the value's there. I mean, when he plays, he's going to score. He's got the QB2, possibly QB1 upside.
So I mean that's very interesting to say. I mean, I've done several startups, and he hasn't made it out of the second round. So you just must be in a league with a bunch of people that don't know how to play super flex. I'm thinking because he's consistently getting bought or drafted as anywhere from the QB9 to like the QB like 15 range, which is about 2-1 to like about 2-12, 3-1 is where he's at. Some recent trades that have actually happened on a lot of platforms, just so we can kind of review and tell me your feelings on this. Kyler Murray for Kyle Pitts, straight up. These are in Superflex. We have another one where somebody sold Kyler Murray and Marvin Mims for Jordan Addison and Rashad White. So really just going for, essentially, we can look at that as like the 1-8 and
Yeah.
in White. Kyler Murray for McCaffrey and Brock Purdy. That's a pretty good deal for in a Superflex, I'd like to. Somebody traded away Kyler Murray and a second next year for Jared Goff. Telling me they're completely out. I'm seeing him going for like Mac Jones and Sky Moore. I'm seeing it is just all over the place. Him going for a mid first straight up. So when we look at that, that tells me that he is a buy. He was already a buy for me before I even looked at all those, but the fact that you can get a guy that has like top 5 quarterback upside with his rushing ability, even with a restructured knee and everything, even if he's not on the Cardinals and on a different team next year because they somehow draft Caleb Williams and find a way to trade him and doesn't impact financial, whatever. You can get a guy that has that upside for a lone first round pick, you do it. If you can get him for a second and you throw in, I don't even know, you have Jordan Love in a second, you throw it in for Kyler Murray, do it. Go buy it. That's kind of where we're seeing some of his value here in some of these trades. Somebody like Brock Purdy, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Mac Jones, if you can pair any of them with a pick to go get Kyler Murray, go do it. Because Kyler Murray, without the injury, is at QB10 pretty low, actually, when we're thinking about it, because consistency with his rushing ability, he should be ranked higher than Deshaun Watson and Justin Fields, because he has just as much rushing prowess as Justin Fields, but he can throw a lot. I mean, he's proven he can throw better in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he also could be fighting with Trevor Lawrence just based on his rushing upside. So he's an instant buy for me. I think he's very cheap and very affordable, considering that he has that QB1 upside of being a set it and forget it type of quarterback in superflex leagues, even in single quarterback. And you might catch somebody that is impatient and doesn't want to sit around and wait, and will do a deal where you can trade Tua and a third for Kyler Murray. You do it. Now, let's go to the next guy on the list. We're going to fall down a little bit. Russell Wilson, quarterback 22. There's talk that maybe we're at the end of his line for value right now. And he's getting drafted as like a legit QB2. He's a lot of people's second quarterback in superflex leagues. He's maybe your third in single quarterbacks. What are you doing with Russell Wilson?
I'm selling Wilson. I've sold him across a few of my leagues. I think this is the time to get out on him and get what value you can. Hopefully salvage. I think, he's not. He was a product of Pete Carroll more than anything. I think Pete Carroll brought out the best for him. The schemes and everything was tailored to Russell Wilson. Outside of that, I don't think Sean Payton schemes are going to continue to protect Wilson. I mean, he's got a nice set of weapons with Judy, with once Javonte Williams comes back, you got Perrine signed there in the offseason, who's a good pass catching. You got a nice set of young tight ends. So he has the weapons. But I think he's in the twilight of his years. So this is the time that if you can sell him, you do, or you're just going to have to ride out the rest of his career.
I think Russell Wilson's a buy right now, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. So the fact that he's a guy that consistently was probably ranked around the same range as Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. Before last year, he was getting, actually in last year's startups, he was getting drafted around the QB like 12 range. And it's because he really didn't fall off. He gets consistent rushing yards, good touchdowns. He throws well, doesn't have a lot of turnovers. Now he has a bad year, and he tumbles like 10 spots, which is a massive fall. And right now, some of these trades that he's going for tell me that I just want to go buy, because I think it's an insane value, especially if you can lock him as like your third quarterback. Let's say like you're flirting with, you've got top guy, you've got Burrow locked in, and then you just drafted, CJ Stroud at 5. And you're like, okay, Stroud's going to be ready, but I need another guy. You go and get Wilson. He just went for a 24-second and a 25-second. That's it. He went for a pair of seconds and a pair of thirds. He went straight up for a 2023 second this year. It looks like 2.4 for Russell. This was straight up. And, I mean, it's looking like they're pairing him with other things to get, Love, or to get, him and Jordan Love get traded almost straight up across. Because of that, I just think that Wilson's value is so dirt low, and that if I send away a 2024 second round pick, let's say I'm like a mid-range team, potentially contender, I'm trading away 2.6 to 2.12 for a guy that either falls off and is what he is now, and he's not going to do anything for me. I don't really miss out on much. I'm missing out on like what the 8th receiver in the rookie draft, or like the 8th running back, or the 5th, the 7th quarterback. Whereas if he hits, I'm getting so much value out of that I could trade away a 24 second right now, get Russell Wilson. He has a decent season, finishes as like QB 16, QB 14, looks like he's on his way up. I could flip him for a 24 first next year during the draft. And I could just move up 12 to 14 spots in the draft for free. That's how I look at that. I think it's a very low risk, high reward situation on why you'd want to get it. Now you selling him, it seems and feels like it's like, let's just get out of it. Let's just get what value I can out of it. We'll call it good. We'll just, wipe our hands clean. He did a lot of service for me for a couple of years. We'll call it good. One more guy. So we're going to see what we're going to do. So far, you have bought two guys and you've sold one guy. I've bought two guys and I've sold one guy. So let's see if we're both selling here. At QB6, Lamar Jackson, Superflex ADP of about 8 slash like 8.6, so 8 or 9. Tell me what you're doing with Lamar Jackson now that he's got that bag.
I'm selling him. I think right now is the best time to sell Lamar Jackson because he does have that bag. He's tied to Baltimore for several years. But if you look in the past, Lamar has injury concerns. He's not a great pocket passer. He has to scramble, thus leading to injuries. He cost me 2 championships last year because of his injury. You get later in the season, the body, all the hits and everything where he is a rushing quarterback plays a part. His body starts breaking down later in the season, and he can cost you. He's a great quarterback through week 8. Once your playoffs start, he's not a reliable quarterback. So I would want somebody with a little bit more durability and much younger that I can, farm basically for several more years. So right now, I think it's a great time to cash in on the value of Lamar Jackson and address not only getting a younger quarterback with with a big upside and taking a risk. Also, you may be able to get an add-on to fill depth at the other position or upgrade another position.
And we're in agreement here. I think Lamar Jackson's a pretty big sell. Reason why is that, don't get me wrong, I think he's going to have a fantastic year. But let's talk about the realities here. There's a red flag. There's the injury red flag. Then there's the other red flag that's like, well, you guys have been hyping up like Zay Flowers, and you're talking about, Mark Andrews is going to be back, and like this passing offense is going to look good because of the new offensive coordinator, the new way they're going to do things, which means they're going to limit his rushing ability, which means those fantasy points that make him the QB1 that he once was, that he's never been able to touch again, slowly declining down, it makes it harder to do. Now, unless he's going to have this, big resurgence year where he's going to throw for 4,500 yards, hit 30 touchdowns, and then still run for 5 and 5. I just don't want to take the risk. And I think that you can get some really good deals out there for Jackson right now. He is currently, like I said, getting drafted behind Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, but he's getting drafted just ahead of Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. And so if we look at recent deals that has been done for him, I'm going to go to one that is just kind of mainly just him. There's a lot of these like group deals. So somebody recently got 2 first-round picks next year, Jordan Love and Will Levis, which we could say they got the 112. So they got 3 first-round picks and Jordan Love for Lamar Jackson. Now, I'm not a Jordan Love fan. I don't know if I'm a Will Levis fan. I don't like the videos I'm seeing on social media of Will Levis and throwing drills and everything. But he locked up 2 first-round picks, as well as 2 quarterbacks that potentially could be tradable assets for him in the future as well. Another deal is that he was able to combine Lamar Jackson and Isaiah Pacheco for Justin Herbert. So just us, RB2 to move up and get a top 5 guy and lock yourselves in. There's been, here we go, another one. Lamar Jackson, and he got Derek Carr, Chris Olave, a 2nd and a 3rd and a 4th next year, and a 2nd in 2025. So
that's insane value.
That's a great deal right there. That's a great deal. And so obviously you don't need to go out and demand 3, 4 first-round picks. But if you can get 2 first-round picks for Lamar Jackson and a starting player for you, that's a great deal. Counterpoint, if you're okay with this, which I think you should be health-wise, trade away Lamar Jackson for Dak and a first. Points per game is not going to falter too much, even if they both play 17 games and the rushing upside's still there. it's going to be close. And you're that first, it's going to help you get a better player too to fit in your starting lineup. So if you can flip him for Anthony Richardson plus Bryce Young plus CJ Stroud plus, and you do it. You can get multiple first round picks for him. You do it. Now, something else that you should do is I saw this and somebody paired up Lamar Jackson with Treylon Burks to get Josh Allen. Do that as well. If you're really strong at receiver or running back, trade away your fourth or fifth guy with Lamar Jackson to get Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, or Hurts, Herbert, or Burrow. Lock in a guy that is safer because of health, scheme fit works out, and they're not switching everything around, and they're young enough, they're going to keep developing. So that's where we're at. So we agreed on 2, we disagreed on 2. Going through our list, Jason and I both think you guys should sell Lamar Jackson, get the farm while you can. We're both buying Kyler Murray right now at his low value. He's buying Daniel Jones. I'm selling, different reasons though. And then he's selling Russell Wilson, and I'm buying Russell Wilson. Again, different reasons though. With that being said, we're all done here. So thank you guys for coming on in, checking out our quarterback buys and sells. We're going to continue this series. There's 3 more of them, running backs, receivers, and tight ends that we'll be talking about next week, as well as other Dynasty questions we're going to keep pushing up on Twitter. So with that being said, go ahead, Jason. You have a Dynasty question you want to talk about before we dive right into that.
Yeah, so as our listeners know, you commission a few leagues, and I will. I do as well. So recently I had a draft, a startup draft for a Dynasty League that had the third round reversal.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? Because he's debating that the third round reversal is unfair and everything should be snake. So my point is I like the third round reversal because it helps balance the league. So as a commissioner of your leagues, how do you feel about the third round reversal?
So it will not even as a commissioner, it's like personally, I like third round reversal. I think it's a good standard to kind of set going forward, just because we end up with the person that gets the number 1 pick ends up with 3 top 25 players in a 12-team league. They'll get the 1, the 24, and then they'll get the 25. Whereas I think the value between the number 1 and the number 12 player is vastly different than you would say the number 25 player that the last pick would get in the third round versus the 36 player. I don't think that gap is nearly as big. So because of that, I think that's where the third round reversal is more favorable. Now, personally, as a commissioner, really it's just kind of whatever people like. I try and push those if I start leagues. If I'm just joining leagues, I try and push those as well. But I'm a man of the people. I'm always the last to vote on leagues that I commission, because I don't think that as a commissioner, my opinion should outweigh the public. So I'm always last, and I kind of just go with majority. So personally, love the third round reversal. As a commissioner, I'm okay with either. As long as the whole league is okay with the value, I'm okay with it. With a third round reversal, I want a late pick. Without, I want as high a pick as I can, like top 4 in any startup.